So, Ubisoft. Been through a bit of a turmoil, split into two companies. Now we've got Ubisoft and Tubisoft, and they're splitting hairs as far as which franchise goes in which version of Ubisoft. Basically, the idea was that Ubisoft was actually going to be taken over, and their stocks were going incredibly low, so they took some of their most precious IPs like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that and put that under another Ubisoft. I don't know what the name of the company is, so I've been doing the same thing that some other channels have been doing and just calling it Tubisoft. But with all of that being said, Ubisoft is announcing that there's going to be a Far Cry TV series, a live action TV series that is going to be in the works, and then they kind of just deleted the announcement immediately afterwards. So I don't know how intentional this was, or whether or not this was supposed to be an announcement for the upcoming opening night live or something. But the idea is that it's supposed to be an anthology series, and it features Rob McElhenney of Always Sunny in Philly, and I think there was also someone else who's actually supposed to be huge that's going to be in this whole thing. But yeah, so Ubisoft took down the announcement. Yeah, like I said, it was supposed to be an anthology series of all sorts. Here we go. So basically, by Eurogamer, captured a few details. It's described as an anthology drama where each season will be set in a new world with a different cast of characters. The show is reported to be reportedly being executive produced by Noah Hawley, who created the Fargo series for FX, as well as Alien Earth, which began airing on FX this week. And the Fargo series, I'm pretty sure, was also an anthology, though with this one, it's going to be an anthology drama. And one thing that I'm not hoping for is whether or not... I hope that they don't take themselves too seriously. Because I feel like when it comes to Far Cry especially, it's more just sort of like main character does extreme amounts of violence and eventually gets stuff done in a way in these games. And it's clear, looking at this picture of Vaas, for example, keeping in mind that the actor based on Vaas, he could actually play Vaas in a rendition of Far Cry 3 if that's going to be one of the seasons that's going to be airing. And honestly, that should be their first season. Their first season should be basically their biggest Far Cry game of all time that hit the mainstream, which was Far Cry 3. Far Cry 2 is just as good, equally as good as Far Cry 3, but the problem is that not many people played 2, and so many people are more fond of Far Cry 3. And honestly, I prefer Far Cry 3 more so because I like islands, I like beaches, and so having a location that is an island in the middle of nowhere, it's just a really cool location. So I'm basically biased for the sort of ocean view scenery type of location in games, and that should probably not surprise a lot of people, but I really do like the location of Rook Island in Far Cry 3. But that's an interesting way of looking at things, is doing an anthology series where each season is, it has their own cast of characters, their own villains, their own main characters. Are they going to be actively adapting what the story was in the games? Are they going to be doing their own thing? Who knows? And even though we did get stuff like Captain Laserhawk, for example, which was based off of Blood Dragon, it's worth keeping in mind that, they can make a live action Blood Dragon and style it in a similar way to that of Terminator 2. You've got options there. As an example. And Rob McElhenney of It's Always Sunny, he does more sort of he does well when he doesn't take himself too seriously, when he does things in a more jokey or comedic way, and that's kind of part of the reason why I hope that they don't take it too seriously, is because of him producing, but also the fact that Far Cry is a series that never should be taken seriously in any way, shape, or form, because it doesn't do well when it does do itself seriously. I really do think that Far Cry 4, I think, was probably one of the weakest Far Cries, because it had to follow up 3, which was an excellent Far Cry, and Far Cry 2, which was also an excellent Far Cry, and the Far Cry 5, which is disappointing until you know what the ending is. The ending of Far Cry 5, I think, is its singular only saving grace for the most part. And 6 I personally haven't played, but I feel like if they bring Giancarlo Esposito in, oh my god, hold on. Now you've got some like really big names actually playing some huge characters from video games in a TV show. But again, it just depends on whether or not they're going to want to have new characters or original characters for these shows. We just really don't know. And then there's also a question of whether or not they're going to take place during the same time in which the games take place, or something else is going on. So there's a lot to talk about, there's a lot to think about, there's a lot to sink our teeth into. So I feel like there's a lot that could probably go. And of course there's also the Far Cry movie from 2008 that was made by Uwe Boll, man. He made some awful video game movies, but anyway, hated by audience and reviewers, love it. And of course we had Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, which I did talk about earlier on, which for some reason I think had what was it called? It was Rayman boning someone, I can't remember who. Anyway, besides the point. Yeah, Ubisoft has been doing a bunch of TV adaptations. We had, okay, I don't know if any, so an Assassin's Creed TV series, it's worth keeping in mind that Assassin's Creed did get a movie adaptation with Michael Fassbender, which I still haven't seen, and I really should go back and watch. And there's a lot of other stuff that's being worked on at the same time. And I feel like there's an important comparison point to make, and that's Mythic Quest. I think that, so this article goes into it, and I actually completely forgot about it. But the funny thing is that I think that if the Far Cry show was handled similarly to that of Mythic Quest, I feel like that could go really, really well. So to put into perspective, Mythic Quest was an Apple TV Plus show that ran for 4 seasons, as it says here, and then was cancelled earlier this year. And it was a good show. Like, people really liked it. There was a lot of positive sentiment around Mythic Quest, though I've personally not seen it myself. So I do want to watch it now that now that it's finished and it's not going to be getting any more seasons. I feel like if the Far Cry show was handled in a similar way to that of Mythic Quest, I feel like a lot of really good things could be done, and keeping in mind that Mythic Quest only happened because of Ubisoft. Ubisoft, in fact, I think announced Mythic Quest, I think in like 2019 or 2020, during one of their E3 presentations during the pandemic. They did things in a very sort of low-tech fashion, but honestly, like, that was while the E3 presentation they did was awful, hey, at least something good came out of it. Like, originally we kind of questioned what the heck is this Mythic Quest supposed to be, and it turned out to be a fairly good TV show. So I feel like there's a possibility that some of these adaptations, like the Assassin's Creed TV show, Beyond Good and Evil animated film, the Tom Clancy's Division movie, Just Dance film, a Riders Republic movie, or a Watchdog movie, or a Rabbids film, or a Splinter Cell series, or a Skull and Bones show could potentially be good. I am more hopeful for Far Cry to actually make a bigger splash than all of these things combined, but it's only a matter of time before we see anything actually materialize. So the possibility of it materializing might actually be somewhat low, given that Ubisoft did in fact delete their announcement of all of this. So I am curious to hear what you guys have to say about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year, and with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.